Hey guys, David Stewart here. I'm back with this Escape Classical by Traveler Guitar, and I thought I'd do a little bit of a follow-up to my initial early impressions review that I got, or that I did right when I got it out of the box. And I wanted to follow up with a couple of things that have presented themselves to me sort of after I bought the guitar. The first thing that I noticed when I got this guitar, and I did mention this in the review, is that the string balance is all over the place. And by all over the place, I don't mean really all over the place. The bass strings were really loud and the treble strings are very quiet. After working on this guitar, doing numerous setup attempts to get this bridge bone to be completely flat, and it is as flat can be on the bottom. We still have the same problem, which makes me think it's a problem with the pickup. I checked the slot. It fits in the slot. I have tweaked it as much as I could tweak it, and sounds exactly the same as it did before, which makes me think that there's a problem with the pickup that it shipped with. I might be contacting warranty on that, but more than likely it's not going to be able to come back to me in any working condition. They'll just tell me to set it up again, which of course I've already done. So that's a big drawback, and that's definitely going to lower my opinion of this particular guitar. If you listen to it, the bass strings are really loud, and I have everything like at 12 o'clock. Everything's there's nothing turned up or turned down in the volume. Very quiet. By the time we get to that sixth string, it's just really, really loud. And there's a couple things that I may still try to do, like I may cut the bridge in half to try to balance just two sections of it instead of one. I may flip the bridge around backwards. I'm going to try a couple different things to see if I can just get this thing to not sound so bad. The pickup doesn't sound bad itself. It's just the string balance is really, really bad. So that is a big problem. There's two other big problems that I wanted to bring up to you guys if you're interested in a guitar like this. Again, I got this not just because it's small and compact and easily traveled with, but because it's an amplified guitar solution and it's moderately priced. So if you're looking for an amplified guitar solution, you might have to keep looking. Unfortunately, my search will go on, and I'm just not that happy with the stuff that's on the market besides this. This guitar feels very good in the hands, but other guitars may have a better pickup sound and feel worse in the hands. I'm still at kind of a loss. There's very little electric guitar stuff that's made for classical guitar players, so I'm going to keep looking. This is a big design flaw, it turns out, this metal end cap, where you tie the strings off. This is actually a gigantic design flaw in a classical guitar. And the reason it's a design flaw in a classical guitar is because aluminum is harder than nylon. In a steel string guitar, you have steel against aluminum, which aluminum is somewhere near the hardness of steel, but it's a little bit softer, I believe. So your strings are going to eat into this rather than this eating into your strings. However, aluminum is a lot harder than nylon, which means that it basically, and this is really finely machined, so it's very flat. There's no rounded edges. There's no rounded edges on the inside here. The holes on the ends are just really, really flat. And what that creates is a very sharp edge that just shreds your treble strings. I've broken numerous strings, and sometimes strings while I'm tuning them up, they just snap right here because it cuts the strings and shreds them. So this is actually a huge design flaw. I wouldn't actually, just for this reason alone, I'd probably not recommend this to somebody who wants to gig on a guitar like this, because this will cause your strings to fail. I'm very, very certain about that, having used it for a couple of months in instruction and trying to perform with it. And I have done a couple of performances on this guitar. Just sort of dealt with the fact that the treble strings are very quiet and the bass strings are really loud. Just kind of played, everything light up here and loud here. I shouldn't need to do that though. I'm playing very loud with the treble, how I normally play it on my actual guitars. The treble strings become almost inaudible. So Anyway, yeah, this is a huge design flaw. If anyone from Traveler Guitar is watching, you got to get rid of that aluminum end cap for a classical guitar. You got to put something else on the end there. It's got to be something else. It's got to be plastic, resinite, wood, anything, but you can't be aluminum. There's a reason that you don't make classical guitar pegs out of metal. You make them out of plastic. So the pegs that you wind the strings on, they're never metal on a classical guitar unless it's like a folk style guitar, which actually uses steel strings. They're always plastic because you're using nylon strings, and the metal will just break the nylon strings because it's harder. It's like a very simple and easy to understand engineering concept. Whatever is harder is going to wear into whatever is softer. So turns out this is a big design flaw, and I didn't think about it ahead of time, or I would have possibly asked about it ahead of time. Third big drawback to this that is a big disappointment for me is turns out you can't use a lot of strings with this particular guitar. It turns out because of the way this is designed, where the strings go over the bridge and then around this this little cam system and over this patch of Velcro and finally into the tuners. It adds about, let's see here, I'm going to say it adds about that's about 4 or 5 inches of string that you need, extra string that you need to use. Adds 4 or 5 extra inches of string that are used before it gets to the tuner, I should say. There we go. So on a regular guitar, you have the tuners, you have the string tied off down here at the bridge, then it goes, half an inch into your first tuner. 2 inches in your first tuner and like 3.5 inches into your last tuner. Well, in this case, you're going like 8 or 9 inches into this last tuner. That meant for me that I couldn't use the strings that I wanted to use. If you're like me and you use Sever strings, I use Sever Alliance with all my classical guitars and my flamenco guitars. I use them for everything. You can't use them on this guitar. They don't work. They're too short. So my D string on my Severas, no matter how I tied it here, every little bit of slack, couldn't tie it into this peg. Just, it wouldn't go. It's not long enough. It only went about here. So if you're using Severas, it doesn't work. If you're using Golly strings, I tried some Gollies. They're an Italian-made string. Usually kind of a budget string, but I think they're good. So if you're using Gollies, those also do not reach. In fact, the only brand of string that I found that actually reaches all the way in here is the D'Addarios that this guitar came with. So I put some D'Addarios back on here so I could continue using it. Unfortunately, still have the same string balance issues. So for those 3 big drawbacks, first of all, the huge design flaw that is this aluminum end cap. That's going to go negative to my initial impressions. The big design flaw that is the extra string travel that makes it so you cannot use certain brands of strings. That's a big tick off. And of course, this particular version, I'm not going to say that this is going to be standard. If you get one of these, it'll probably be set up better than mine. I probably just got kind of a lemon as far as the pickup system goes. But unbalanced strings that seem unbalanceable, that's a big negative. So overall, I'm going to give, and let me talk about the positives again. So the positives are, this is made out of good materials. It's a good, solid instrument. The pickup system is actually very good. It has a built-in tuner, which is excellent. It's a full scale length, so it will feel like a normal guitar. It has a full width nut, which is so hard to find. It doesn't have a radiused fretboard. It has a nice flat fretboard like you would actually use to play classical guitar. For that reason, that is why I sought out this instrument. It was those reasons alone. It feels like a regular classical guitar on the left hand. It feels excellent. It feels excellent on the right hand too, although it's going to feel a little weird without the extra guitar up here. For those 2 reasons, it has solid elements to the design. It's made out of good woods. It's got a really cool truss rod system. It's very compact. It comes with an excellent case. So those are all really good things. So if you buy another Traveler guitar, and I should say the reason I bought a Traveler guitar, I have an excellent amp that they made years ago. That's a battery-powered fold-up amp. Just a great piece of hardware. It's always been awesome for me, so I really look to this brand to be good. And I think what they did is they took the design of their steel string guitar and just sort of made a classical version of it. And with a steel string guitar, this aluminum end cap is not a design flaw. And the extra travel isn't that big a deal because you're not having to tie the strings into the pegs so they don't slip out. With a classical guitar, at least with mine, especially using like sever as strings, the tying of the strings to the peg is a necessity so that the strings don't slip out of the peg because they are slippery little nylon guys. So that is a necessity where it may not be a necessity on a steel string guitar at all. So on the steel string guitar, you probably have enough wire to go back and around and then into there, and you're probably fine with it. But with a nylon string guitar, it adds too much string travel, so you can't use certain brands of strings at all. But yeah, so the positives: good materials, it's got a good alder body. The maple neck I like. The dimensions are correct. It works as promised. It's got, it has a good output jack, good pickup system. Sort of, other than the preamp sounds good. The actual piezo is not so good. So those are the positive things. It does have a cedar top, but that doesn't matter. With a solid body guitar, you could make the top out of plastic. It all sound the same for something like this. So don't be like, oh, cedar top is nice. It's like, doesn't matter. Really doesn't matter. So don't worry about the top materials. It's made out of wood, good wood. That's enough. So there's big design flaws. Aluminum end cap that shreds your strings. Too long to use every brand of string. And also the piezo is unbalanced, though that your mileage may vary on that. Makes me say I'm not going to recommend this guitar, except maybe if you want something to practice with on the plane. But then you're looking at spending $500 on a practice instrument. And I don't know if I would do that. I guess I ended up doing that, but I intended to use this for performance purposes. The search for a good performance classical guitar goes on. And I guess I'm going to have to start saving up for a Rick Turner guitar because they're the only ones, he's the only one who makes classical guitars, the Renaissance guitars, that I really, really like as electric guitars. So I'll be definitely trying to find some other solutions and let you know about those. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I'll probably link the original video here. And if you're from Traveler Guitar watching it, you need to do a little bit of a design revision on this particular guitar. Unfortunately, it just does not meet my standards or expectations, mostly because of this guy. Like this, I could probably eventually fix. And I guess I can resign myself to using D'Addario strings because of this design element, but the end cap that shreds all my strings, it's not good. So anyway, have a great one, guys, and I will see you later.